I'm Eric Freshley. I'm coming to get you, and this is Poorly Thought Out. So, in the last episode, we talked about Starfield, and Starfield's actually going to kick off the discussion this time because we found out from Jason Schreier and then backed up by Jeff Grubb, which last time was the other way around, that it is not going to be a 2021 game after all. And so a lot of people are wondering what is going to be on Xbox's docket for 2021. There's still plenty. There's still an awful lot. And a lot of people are saying that there's not going to be anything besides Halo. I think they're wrong, and I think they're not thinking of everything. Now, I will say right off the bat that if you only care about AAA games, then yeah, there's not much for you other than Halo. But that's just not a good way to explore this hobby. If you're a fan of games, there's so much more out there than just AAA that's going to be a great time. So we're going to talk briefly, because it's a pretty long list, so I can't go into in-depth detail about all of these I have over here. Only on a couple will I kind of stop and pause. Stop and pause mean the same thing. I don't know why I just said that twice. So I got these grouped into kind of two groups here. First of all, I do want to say that Sea of Thieves and Minecraft Dungeons are going to be continuing to get updates because those are games of service. That makes sense. As a matter of fact, Minecraft Dungeons has a big update called Hidden Depths due on the 26th, so just in a few days now. And also, Cuphead is not an exclusive, and it has DLC announced, so we haven't seen for an awfully long time, so who knows when that's coming or what the deal is with that, but could still be this year. So I want to mention those right off the bat. Now, I got all the rest of these grouped into two groups. Exclusives, or timed exclusives, or console exclusives, because of course it's Xbox, so everything comes to PC. And then after that, we're going to talk about some big Game Pass games. So kicking off with exclusives, these are in alphabetical order, by the way, is 12 Minutes. An indie game published by Annapurna with an all-star cast of Daisy Ridley, James McAvoy, and Willem Dafoe. And this is a game that takes place in your married couple's apartment, and they're stuck in a time loop of 12 minutes. And the wife has been accused of murdering her father, and a cop comes in and is up to some bad shit. And you, as the husband, have to keep repeating the 12-minute loop and figure out what's going on and how to prove her innocence. It seems like a very unique premise, and that cast of Willem Dafoe, McAvoy, and Ridley. Age of Empires 4 is actually... I put that on a list. That's a PC game, though. That's not coming to console, at least for now, and definitely not this year, if it comes at all. But it's still on the list because it's Xbox published. Long-running franchise. I used to play Age of Empires 2 as a kid. You know what Age of Empires is. The Artful Escape, also published by Annapurna, just like 12 Minutes. This is a platformer with one of the craziest, trippiest art styles I've ever seen. And this was actually conceived by a musician of a band called the Galvatrons, an Australian rock band, apparently. And so music, it plays a huge part of this game. Your character uses a guitar to create platforms and fight battles. And it looks like an absolute acid trip, and I expect the music to be a real focal point of this game and be a real banger. As Dusk Falls is we don't actually know the release window. That I could see that one not coming out this year, but as of now they're saying 2021. A new team called Interior Night, and their studio head used to work for Quantic Dream, the makers of Detroit Become Human and Heavy Rain and things like that. So I would expect kind of that narrative adventure type of game. This is one that's personally one of my most anticipated ones, The Ascent. We actually have a release date on this one, July 29th, and this one was confirmed for Game Pass earlier this year. It's kind of a Diablo-esque, kind of a twin-stick shooter-esque, 4-player co-op, and it's on Game Pass for both console and PC, and there's crossplay between them. It just had a bunch of previews and trailers come out, and it has been getting very positive press. I can't wait for this one. Only like a 12 to 14 or something like that team making this, who it's their first game, but they have a lot of Hollywood experience, or I should say movie making experience, because I believe they're somewhere in Europe. And I think this is a gorgeous game, especially for an indie. It's going to be a blast. Can't wait for that one. Bright Memory Infinite is still, last we heard, is still slated for 2021. This is a single developer in China. I would say this one, though, mostly because it's a single developer, I would say this one's prone to being delayed. I would not be surprised if it doesn't come out this year. Now, there was a prologue that came out on Steam years ago and then came out on the launch day for Xbox Series X. It showed a lot of promise. It was kind of rough in places, but it was almost a proof of concept for this guy, the developer on it, to hopefully get a job. And then it turned out that people liked it so much that he's making it into a full-blown big game. And so I think it's going to get a lot more attention than the prologue did, and I have confidence that the rough edges will be smoothed out. Crossfire X is still slated for this year, and actually we've gotten... So this is almost 2 games in one. This is a unique one. It has a campaign developed by Remedy Entertainment, makers of Control and Alan Wake and Quantum Break, and it apparently plays completely different than the multiplayer. The multiplayer is free-to-play PvP, and that is developed by the original team that made Crossfire. So Crossfire is a really old game that is actually one of the most popular games, online games in the world that you might not have heard of because its popularity is mostly in South Korea and China, but not so much here at all. And it's very Counter-Strike-esque. And so this has the PvP free-to-play that is a huge update to that old Crossfire. This is in HD, and obviously it's HD. It's 2021 after all, but it's a completely separate gameplay and graphical engine than the campaign made by Remedy. So it's weird. It's 2 games in one. As I said, the multiplayer is free to play. The campaign seems to be paid. I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up on Game Pass, but as of now, you do have to buy it. And we've gotten word that, or kind of leaked from, or not even leaked, but Remedy said that they're almost done with their portion of it. So I wouldn't be surprised if it comes out soon. The PvP I actually played a beta of last year. I didn't really dig it that much, unfortunately, but I have a lot of faith in Remedy and to make that campaign. And as I said, the PvP, it was last year, so it could have changed a lot. And with that big a player base, the most popular game in the world, online game in the world, I wouldn't be surprised if it finds an audience here too. Deg Static Drive is an indie game. This one's going to be on Game Pass day one. Echo Generation is another indie game. Now this one I believe is not announced for Game Pass, and I did play a a demo of this one late last year as well, and I really like this one. The vibe is a lot like Stranger Things or Mother, Earthbound, but the combat is a lot like the original Paper Mario, timing-based, turn-based RPG. Very charming, cute graphical style, clever writing. This one is one to keep your eye on. XO1 is another indie game coming to Xbox exclusively, or console exclusively anyway, and you play a flying disc in this one, and it's kind of just an adventure game. It seems to have a similar vibe to something like Journey. XO Mecha, not to be confused with XO1, is a free-to-play multiplayer shooter coming in August, I believe. This looks pretty crazy. A lot like Titanfall, except in addition to robots, there's also robot dinosaurs and hoverboards and swords and all kinds of, and just vehicles, all kinds of crazy stuff. It looks like a nutty sandbox. Art style that just has a lot of crazy reflections on the character because everybody seems like they're made of a very shiny metal. I hope it plays as cool as it looks. I'm looking forward to it. Forza Horizon 5, not officially announced, but it seems to be true. A lot of people like Jeff Grubb have said, yeah, it looks like it's going to happen. And then it even leaked that it seems like it's going to be set in Mexico, as a matter of fact. So yes, it is. That will come this year. Every time they announce a Forza Horizon, it comes out in fall. or sorry, it's announced at E3 and then comes out in fall. I expect that here again. There's even been some Hot Wheels recently that have leaked in the past couple days that are marked as Forza Horizon. Now, you might be saying, well, they're working on Fable. They actually have two different teams. Playground Games does. So the Fable team and the Forza Horizon team are completely separate. And also, there was the fact that they announced Forza Motorsport, but I don't think that is going to hurt Forza Horizon here. I think Forza Motorsport is going to be almost a reinvention of the franchise from the ground up, and that's going to take a little while longer. And I believe that's going to be almost a service when it does come out, probably next year. I don't think there's going to be more motorsports this generation. I think there's just going to be continuing updating this one. And the reason they showed it so early is because it's a pretty car game. You have to debut your console with showing a pretty car game. It's a rule. Grounded is already out in early access. It's supposed to hit 1.0 this year. It's from Obsidian, but it's from a very small subsection within Obsidian, something like 12 or 13 people. A survival game where almost a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids inspired. Lots and lots of fun right now, and it has been updated a lot already and will continue to receive updates. It hits 1.0 this year. The Gunk. Do not sleep on The Gunk. This team, they used to be called Image and Form. Now they're called Thunderful, the studio behind it. They made all the SteamWorld games. SteamWorld Dig 1 and 2, SteamWorld Heist, which is one of my personal favorites, SteamWorld Quest. They don't miss. They are an incredible team. And this is their first 3D game. It's their biggest game to date, for sure. And I believe, just based on their track record, they're going to knock it out of the park. Do not sleep on this game. As I mentioned, it should be on everybody's radar. The next up is a little game you might have heard of called Halo Infinite. What more needs to be said about Halo? If you're an Xbox fan, you already have played all the Halos and you're looking forward to this one. Even with its showing last year, yeah, there was. I thought the gameplay looked incredible. Graphically, there was some disappointments, but now it's been a year that they've delayed it. It should have gotten ray tracing implemented. They've been updating us monthly with their online blogs, and everything is starting to look really, really nice. Composed in part by Gareth Coker, who did the Ori games, some of my favorite music in games. I have faith in this game. Also, the multiplayer will be completely free to play, so it should have a massive player base across Xbox, xCloud, and PC. So, you already know about Halo, and you're already going to play it. Kart Rider Drift is a free-to-play game they announced about a year and a half ago, and even did a demo last year that I played. And it seems to have kind of dropped off the map for a while. This is another game, actually, that is massive in Korea, or at least the franchise is massive in Korea. The franchise is mostly mobile, though, and I believe on PC also. And this is their first console version of it, I believe. And but like I said, it has dropped off the map. They haven't talked about it in a long time, so I don't really know what's going on. And I will say the demo didn't feel very good to play. For a game with drift in the title, drifting seemed pretty dodgy in that demo. So, but they've had a lot of time now. That was probably like 8 months ago or so to tighten things up. I hope we see it again. I hope it comes out, and I hope they make it feel a lot better. Also free to play on that one. The Last Night is a game we saw at E3 2017, and this is another one from a single developer, and we haven't heard from this one in a while. And I'm actually a little bit worried that it might not come out. The developer, once the game was debuted and everybody was really impressed with the trailer, some of his past comments have come out, and they were controversial, and it seems like Xbox kind of distanced themselves from this guy after that, even though he did issue an apology and a retraction. So I don't know if it's going to come out anymore, but the reveal trailer was gorgeous, and I don't know, we'll keep our fingers crossed on this one. He also revealed maybe about a year ago so that he was having some funding problems, so don't know about this one if it's actually going to come. Microsoft Flight Simulator already out on PC. It's coming to console this summer. It got 10s across the board, one of the best reviewed games of last year. It's going to be fantastic. Moon Glow Bay is an indie game, an RPG based on fishing. This one is Game Pass on day one. Seems to be a very relaxing game. Nobody Saves the World is from Drinkbox Studios, the makers of Guacamelee and Severed. And if you've played Guacamelee, you already have faith in these guys. It's very similar to the Gunk. This is a team that doesn't miss. This one, though, unlike the Gunk, I think I mentioned it's a big step up for them going to 3D. This seems like it's keeping the same scope that they're familiar with, which is totally fine because Guacamelee both those games have been fantastic. Nobody Saves the World is a game where you play as a whole host of characters, comedic and more powerful towards the end of the game, and I believe it's going to be a lot of fun. That was a pretty big surprise when they announced that Drinkbox was making a Game Pass game, but very, very exciting. Ooblets is in early access right now. It should hit 1.0 this year as well. It's in 0.7 right now, version 0.7, so it's getting close to 1.0. And this is a charming slice of life game based on a lot of gardening, and also it has a lot of Pokemon in there, except for instead of battling physically, they have dance battles, because they originally had actual battles just like Pokemon does, and then all the feedback they got was, we don't want to see these cute creatures beat each other up, so they made it dance battles. It's very charming, and looking forward to 1.0. Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis. This one comes out next month, and I think it is insane that nobody's talking about this one. Nobody's counting this one. This game, I believe it's actually, the problem might be in the name. I believe a lot of people think it's an update to Phantasy Star Online 2, and it's not really. It's a whole new game. It is Phantasy Star Online 3 in all but name. There is some connection between the two, which is why I think they didn't call it 3. A lot of your cosmetics and stuff from 2 will carry over, but mostly this is a great jumping on point. The whole new combat system that has been simplified, and if you jumped into Phantasy Star Online 2 when we got it here in the West, we kind of got screwed on that because it didn't come to the West for 8 years after release. So they threw us in the deep end of the pool, and jumping into that game was completely confusing and confounding. But now, with New Genesis, they're starting... The West is getting it on day one, just as the East. We're all starting from the same playing field, so they will be able to ramp things up, just like Destiny has gotten more complex over the years. But if you started from day one, you can keep up. It's going to be the same story here. I can't wait for this one. This one's also free to play. On Phantasy Star Online 2 Vanilla, they gave Game Pass members currency and cosmetics every single month. I hope that continues with New Genesis. Don't sleep on this, like I mentioned before. And it comes out next month, actually. I wouldn't be surprised if this one is shadow dropped at E3. And like I said, this is a great jumping on point. If you are waiting for something like Final Fantasy XIV to come to Xbox, maybe this is going to be the one that you want to keep an eye on for. RPG Time: The Legend of Wright. This is one that was debuted at E3 2019, and we haven't really seen much from it since. So this is another one that I'm a little bit worried about as far as if it's going to come out and when it's going to come out, and if it's just kind of stuck in developmental hell. But this is an indie game. Amazing art style. It looks like a children's drawing, and almost like Drawn to Death, but hopefully it plays better than Drawn to Death. And very dragon. It seems like it takes place in the mind of a kid who loves Dragon Quest. So that's very creative and exciting, and I hope it comes out this year. Sable is another indie game with no combat whatsoever, so I really don't know how the day-to-day game, and the moment-to-moment rather, gameplay is going to work. However, it is gorgeous. Absolutely incredible art style. 2-person developmental team on this. Keep an eye out for it. That one is also Game Pass. Most of these are Game Pass. There's a couple, I believe, RPG Time is not, and Echo Generation, I believe, is not. Maybe a couple others, but most of these are Game Pass. Second Extinction is playable in early access right now. That hits 1.0 in the fall, and actually that is going to become crossplay with PC also in the fall. It is it's very kind of, well, I shouldn't say very. It's kind of like Left 4 Dead, but with dinosaurs. It does have its own thing going on, though, as far as the mission structure. It's very fun right now, and will hopefully only continue to get more fun as they add to it. Scorn. Definitely not, personally, not my type of game, but horror fans will want to keep an eye on this. Odd Forms and Somber Tapestries, aplenty. Shredders comes out in winter 2021. This is a timed exclusive. A lot of these, I should have mentioned, are timed exclusives, but many of them are just not. And a lot of them we don't know, honestly. But Shredders we do. They say first on Xbox. This is a snowboarding game. So if you, I believe it's more realistic than SSX, but still, if you were a fan of SSX, might be something to keep your eye on. Song of Iron is a one-person team. This one is another one that I played a demo of last year, and I gotta be honest with you, this one breaks my heart. It didn't feel really great to play. Absolutely stylish as hell and a cool art style, and so I hope the gameplay tightens up, but it just felt awkward and clunky. But hey, that was a while ago. They still have time. Tunic. This one, I can't guarantee this is coming out this year. This is another one-person developer. I could see, they haven't even announced the date, so this is almost more of a wish and a prayer to put it on this list for this year. It could quite possibly slip, but they share a lot of things on Twitter, or he, I should say, as a one-person team. Zelda Like a Fox, they say. Great art style, very cute-looking character. Hopefully it makes it out this year, and hopefully it is as good as it looks. The people who have gone hands-on with it have raved about it. Warhammer 40k Dark Tide. This is another one that I think is getting slept on. And if you have played the Warhammer Vermintide games, 1 and 2, well, this is basically that in the future. Mostly melee-based like Vermintide, but there are a few guns, unlike Vermintide. Well, Vermintide had a couple, but this has even more than that. So this might be about half and half between ranged and melee combat. Also very Left 4 Dead-like. There's a couple Left 4 Dead-like games coming out this year, and I think we got 1 or 2 more that we'll talk about. This team that makes these games, the Vermintide games and now this Dark Tide game, are great. And I think since this one is not coming to Xbox One right now, it is only Series S and X as well as PC, I hope that they don't hold back on it like they did. So the console versions of Vermintide were a little bit held back from the PC version. They had fewer enemies on screen, and thus they got updates later and things like that. I hope since this one's not coming to last generation, they're able to keep this one up with the PC version and possibly even institute crossplay. That would be really, really nice. Way to the Woods, another single developer, and this one you play as a deer and you're leading your deer baby out. Seems like you're trying to go home you're stuck in a post-apocalyptic city, and you're trying to get out of it and to the woods and get yourself home. Looks very cute. I believe the developer says it's going to be a short game, so don't expect a epic sprawling saga there. But it's going to come to Game Pass, and it should be this year. All right, and this next group of games, not as long, but these are games that are not exclusive. These are going to come multi-platform, but they are coming to Game Pass day one. So if you're an Xbox fan and you got Game Pass, which why wouldn't you have Game Pass, you're going to get this for nothing more. Backbone is a noir adventure game where you play as a raccoon private eye. Boyfriend Dungeon is another quirky indie game that's half dungeon crawler, half dating sim, where the weapons you collect turn into boys and you date them. Dungeons & Dragons Dark Alliance is coming out June 22nd. This is a reboot of the classic franchise, a 4-player co-op, and it does have crossplay between the PC and Xbox versions. I've been watching some streams of this game recently because I love co-op games. They're my favorite kind of games, and I think it really looks good. Some of the trailers have been really heavy on the screen shake, but luckily in their streams they've shown actually that you can turn it off, and I think it makes the game look a lot better. And I think this one is going to be a blast with some friends. The Good Life is still slated for this summer. We haven't seen much from it recently, so I wouldn't be totally shocked if it slips. This is from Swery, and if you know Swery, he's wonderfully out of his mind, and this also seems like a crazy-ass game where you play as a reporter who goes to a city where something mysterious is going on, and you find out that at nighttime, all the residents of that city, including yourself pretty soon, turned into dogs and cats for some reason. So a lot of Swery games are rough around the edges and buggy, and I wouldn't be surprised if this one is too, but he's just so crazy that it's fun anyway. Game Pass day one, like all the games in this section. Knockout City actually just came out, and it's been getting really good reception. It has a 78 on OpenCritic as of this recording. This one's actually part of Game Pass Ultimate on console and regular Game Pass on PC because it's technically part of EA Play. Dodgeball game, lots and lots of fun. MLB 21 is out now. Released recently. It has a 78 on OpenCritic, and if you like baseball, give it a try. It's probably the best sim game in the sports genre right now. Omno is another indie game coming this summer. It is an adventure puzzle platformer, very unique art style, very charming. Outriders is a game already out. You've probably already played some of it. If you can, they've been having some server issues that hopefully they get smoothed out. 74 on OpenCritic right now. However, they did recently announce it's going to be getting more content, so keep an eye out for that. Psychonauts 2 is weird to be on this list because this one is a first-party game, so you think it might be up on the exclusive list, but it is not, and the reason why is because it was crowdfunded. There is, however, no PS5 version, only PS4. Now, obviously, PS5 owners can play it on the PS4, but it probably will not be graphically enhanced very much. It will be playing a last-gen version because that's what backers put in for when they gave their money. Over on the Xbox side, however, it is getting a native Series S and X version. Because it's a first-party game. Jeff Grubb says it's coming at the end of this summer. It's part of Game Informer's cover story this month, so they're going to be revealing new information about it all this month. I wouldn't be surprised actually if they reveal a release date for it very, very soon, and that's going to be it's a cult. The original Psychonauts is a cult classic. I still haven't played through it myself, but I'd like to. If you like platformers, this is one to keep your eye on. Recompile is, the gameplay of Recompile actually seems a little bit like Returnal, which just came out recently. Indie game though, so I don't expect the same kind of scope from Returnal or anything like that. But a crazy surreal art style, a little bit maybe a Tron in there, and it's, if you like action and Metroidvanias, I think you're going to have a good time with this one. The Rift Breaker is an action RPG that is part melee combat, part base building, and just got revealed to be coming to Game Pass Day 1 on PC and console. She Dreams Elsewhere is an RPG with a retro art style, sort of reminds me of Undertale a little bit as far as the graphical style. You explore as a woman's dreams and you combat her nightmares in it. It looks quirky, it has a lot of people excited. Stalker 2 is still... They're still saying 2021, last we've heard. I'm kind of doubtful that actually happens, though. But this is the sequel to the cult classic Stalker, which used to be PC only. This one is coming to console, though. Victoria 3 was recently announced to be a Game Pass game. This one is PC only, though, and it's a strategy game. And I had to look up what this was all about because I don't know anything about PC games in general. But it has a dedicated cult fan base. The Wild at Heart was just released on Game Pass. It has a 75 OpenCritic right now. It is a charming indie game with a graphical style similar to Knights and Bikes, but almost gameplay of Pikmin. So there you have it. That's still a hell of a lot of games slated right now for this year coming to Xbox, both exclusives and just games that are multi-platform but going to be on Game Pass Day 1. Keep in mind, though, we are still living in COVID times. I wouldn't be surprised if a whole lot of these don't come this year, and don't get mad about it because, hey, everyone's trying their best, but they're all developers are having to work from home right now. It's a nightmare, so be kind when things slip. It's going to happen. Even if some of these do, though, I think it's still going to be a great year. There's a mix there, a couple AAA, but mostly indies and AA games. However, you can still have a great time, even if it's not AAA. Sometimes those are the best kind of games. There's also, I should mention, a couple rumors out there that things like Battlefield 4 and Back 4 Blood might be coming to Game Pass Day 1. We don't know yet. I wouldn't be shocked if they happen, especially multiplayer games I think are suited well for Game Pass because sometimes it's tough to get your whole friend group to spend $60 or even $70 maybe this generation to buy a game, but with Game Pass you don't have to worry about it so much. You know, as long as everyone's subscribed, you can all play together. So there's no fear of commitment there. And that's all for now. I think it's going to be a great year, even without Starfield. Consider yourselves influenced.